Sorry we're late. Sorry we're late, but you know what? The normalities of everyday life have got in the way.
They have.
Haven't they? We have to live a life before even Game of Thrones. I know that sounds remarkably odd and strange. So we've just watched episode 1 of season 8. It's the last season. It's the last season,
yeah.
the newest season, episode 1. And I was getting so excited about the music. Just
oh my
hearing
gosh,
it.
yeah, the title sequence.
I just love that. It makes me think of Peter Dinklage's little head. Well, it's not so little, actually, is it? It's quite big. Game of Thrones. I thought, right, so here we go. We're starting, and we know that the dead are coming. We know that the wall is down.
The wall is down, and that they've got a dragon on their team.
They've turned a dragon. If I'm honest, there is a slight element of knowing there are only 6 episodes in this series. You feel that any sequences that are a tad long, you sort of think, don't waste our limited time, boys.
But they're going to pack loads into the
Do you
later
think?
episode.
I think the last 2 episodes were
I feel like that episode's the only one that's going to... That was kind of just getting us settled again with all the characters.
It was like orientating us on the chessboard, wasn't it? And saying the chess pieces are here. Yeah. So the first sequence was seeing Daenerys and Jon Snow riding into town, wasn't it, as a sort of combined force?
Yes, with their very, very large army.
With their very large army. With, I can never pronounce the girl's name, the young Stark girl, you know, the very famous... Arya, is it? Arya? It's very hard to pronounce. Anyway, Maisie Williams' character, there she was, standing there looking all dewy-eyed, because of course she's seeing her bro.
I know,
or
for the
who
first
she thinks
time.
is her bro.
Yeah.
Coming towards
Jon
her.
Snow.
But I like the fact that they have that little touch of the Northerners aren't too fond of southern sort of, you know, foreigners. I do sometimes forget that this is a fictional land. I
know what you mean.
I sometimes sort of think, oh, is this the sort of dark ages of Britain?
Yeah.
Slightly. Because you can imagine, I love the
whole... dragons didn't...
Well, dragons never...
They might have existed.
You know, I don't think they did. There's I felt in my heart there was a little like, hooray, like a little Mexican wave with every time we saw each one of them.
Yeah.
So, of course, there was Daenerys, there was Jon Snow. Sansa, she was sort of, now, what's going on with Sansa?
Sansa's got beef with Daenerys.
Yeah, what's that about?
I think a lot of the people in the north are thinking that Jon Snow brought Daenerys back because he loves her rather than thinking that she can win the war.
Right.
So they're all annoyed because
do you think they're all annoyed because she's a bit like a Kardashian? They think she's pretty, she's got dragons, she's got...
Yeah, that's people's point, that she's prettier. But also Sansa's annoyed because people aren't appreciating her as queen of the north rather than...
Yeah, see, I think Sansa's got quite dark recesses of manipulation, that's possible in her. I mean, like Jon Snow said at one point, or someone said at one point, who was it who said it? You've survived.
Yeah.
You know, she has survived. Given that, that's right, because she was married, of course, she's been through a hell of a lot. I mean, she was raped by that monstrous individual as well, wasn't she?
Oh, God, yeah.
The one who chopped Alfie Allen's bits off. Yeah.
Was eating a sausage and then Alfie Dot was eating his...
So one character in this episode that we only saw briefly was Cersei.
Yeah, Cersei was in, one...
And I felt for her. She was in a sort of, clearly in a power struggle.
I really love her character.
I love her character, but she was in a power struggle where she had to really acquiesce in the face of the repulsive...
Alfie Allen's uncle.
Alfie Allen's uncle, the sort of pirate commander of the Armada. He's horrid. I recognise him, actually. He's the sort of zombie Nazi from Overlord, I've just realised.
Really?
And I felt for her, but even in the moment that she sort of surrenders to that awful sort of almost transactional thing, she's still sort of in power.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I just love her character.
I do.
She's so, she can do anything, that actress.
Her performance is so low-key, but it's so rich. Impactful.
And we saw Jaime Lannister, didn't we?
Well, we only got a glimpse of him right at the end.
But that got us excited for...
But do you know what I quite liked about their reveal of him? It was a bit like Luke as the Jedi. He had the hood. And as he got off the horse, he was turning... We all knew it was going to be him.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
But he's even got one hand. So it's even more Luke-like. Luke's got an automaton hand, and Jaime Lannister... Tell you someone we didn't see was Gwendoline, whatever her name is, you know, the tall knight.
Yeah, we did actually. She was sitting in
the... One scene I really liked where we had Alfie Allen effectively rescuing his sister. And at the point that he rescued his sister...
She just headbutted him in the face.
What do you think of that for sibling sort of appreciation?
Well, I mean, she was doing it because when she originally got stolen, he didn't help. So she had this built-up anger.
That's true.
She had to take it out on him, and then she helped him up after because she was like, but you still got me in the end.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I'd do if Kiki did that. I'd be like, bash, and then...
What is the problem with the young Stark who was thrown out of the clock tower at the beginning?
Well, because he's done loads of the thing where his eyes roll back and you can see...
You say he's done too many drugs?
It's a bit like that, isn't it?
It's a bit like that, though. It's kind of, he just feels nothing.
Yeah.
Right down to that moment at the end with Jaime Lannister. I mean, he's face to face with the man who threw him out.
But it really annoys me how emotionless he is. Yeah, and like in every situation, he's just sitting there like...
A little bit like your mum is when I talk about Star Wars.
A bit like mum when you talk to her about...
Game of Thrones. So what do you think Saoirse's going to do? Is Saoirse going to play ball? Is she going to come along? She's not, is she? We know from the last one that she's going to... Because Sansa says to Tyrion...
Yeah.
I always thought you were the smartest person I ever knew. But if you trust that Saoirse is going to actually come...
Yeah.
You're a tiny moron.
Well, she said, didn't she? Because she agreed with Tyrion that she was going to meet them, but right after she was like, nah.
No, that's right. I mean, I thought it was all game on. It was a bit like Brexit, and then suddenly there was no deal was on the table. It was like, oh, shit. But, you know, how can you be so short-sighted to think that you can survive against this monstrous army? I suppose Cersei has no real sense other than that one zombie that was pulled out of a box.
Yeah, but the start, you know, Jon Snow and all of that lot that we remember when they were trapped in the middle of that frozen lake. Only they know the real stuff. Now, and she also doesn't have enough. She doesn't have enough soldiers.
No, she doesn't.
And she doesn't have elephants. She made quite.
The lack of elephants is what I heard on the radio yesterday, and I was like, "There's no way to have any spoilers." And I was thinking, "What the hell's going on with elephants?" I think a lack of elephants is key.
Yeah.
Elephants are needed. They need Dumbo.
Cersei needs elephants.
What's the name of the dude who's Tyrion's old friend, who was his kind of bodyguard? Bronn, in the middle of a bit of a brothel session, which we had to turn the volume down, look to the other side of the room, and then finally realised, is being blackmailed by Cersei's lot.
To kill Tyrion and Jaime.
Who are basically, both of them are kind of his mates.
Yeah.
He's trained them both. He's been their lackey. He's been their confidant.
Yeah.
So I think parked within that is he's going to have a crunch moment where he reverses on it. I think they're parking the beef between Sansa and Daenerys, so there's going to be a crunch moment there. There's obviously already the huge issue that we're going to come to in the final part where Sam unpacks Jon Snow's true origin story.
Uh-oh.
What the hell's that going to do?
It's not going to be good.
But that was
imagine if Jon Snow has to tell Daenerys, she'll just think that he's betraying her.
Absolutely. How is she going to trust the information?
I don't really like Daenerys.
There's something about Daenerys that I don't trust.
I don't trust her.
I think she's going to go stark raving bonkers, and she's going to unleash the dragons. And what about the scene where Jon Snow and Daenerys are snoggy-woggy wooing in front of a waterfall? You know what that means.
And the dragons were looking at them like this because they know that they're related.
Well, the dragons were looking at them like Chi-Chi looks at us when she knows something about us that we don't know. They knew something, didn't they? Those dragons, they knew something.
Well, because we were saying that's why the dragons like Jon Snow so much, because he's got...
Why did you think they had such a protracted dragon flying scene? I thought that was really boring. And I hate to say it, I thought the CGI didn't look very good.
No, I agree. It was a bit like...
It was a bit Superman-y.
But they probably did it for that bit where it looks at him like...
Oh,
you do know that she's your auntie.
Yeah, well, you see, again, I think they're parking the idea that him flying on a dragon's going to become critical probably in the battle scene much further down the way.
Well, it also shows that the dragons like him.
What about poor old Sam finding out?
I know that.
What did he find out?
That his father and his brother were murdered by Daenerys.
And did she look at all apologetic?
That's what I'm saying. She didn't look...
No. Even Ian Glenn behind her looked apologetic.
And like when Sam walked off and she just looked at Ian Glenn like...
Yeah, but even Ian Glenn was looking at her like, come on, feel something, bitch.
Well, yeah, he feels a lot of things. We love Ian.
There's something about Daenerys. It's like it's almost like this was all her plan. I've just had a thought.
What?
Maybe she's working with the dead. And then we had in the final part the wildlings, before we saw Jaime Lannister get off his horse and leave us on that kind of cliff edge of will the boy who has no emotional response have an emotional response?
It didn't look like he would at that
Well, it didn't.
shot.
No, that was hardly a sort of cliff edge. The wildlings come across something that looked like, given that they make the key guy in that little band with the patch with the fiery sword, he's out of Fortitude, where they had lots of chopped up limbs and heads in caves. They find another load of limbs with a child nailed to the wall in the middle.
It was really
Who'd nailed them, did they say? The dead?
I think that they thought it was somebody else, but then the fact that the kid woke up would suggest that it's killed by the
Oh, of course. Of course. And that moment was great. Did you see that shot? Have a look at it where his eyes open behind and you're just like, oh,
and he starts
screaming like a baby. So what did you think? Did it do the job for you?
I mean, it wasn't like bam in your face. I wasn't shocked with anything. It was nice to see all the characters again.
It was.
But I wasn't like, it was good. But I felt like it's also the first episode of the series, so they've got to have that episode.
I feel like it's a step up to getting going. I mean, one thing it didn't do was get going.
Yeah.
But I do genuinely think there's so many narrative threads that they're having to gently park at the front of our minds so that we're kind of, even not that they're expecting people to have not watched all the series, but so that if you've only got a very sort of sketchy understanding,
been a while as well,
it has been a while, that we can all run at it. So I think it's just about sort of almost like, it's like a refresh and a recap, but in the form of everyone setting up their stalls.
Yeah.
And you're feeling the tension in all the right places, aren't you?
I'm ready for episode 2.
Yeah. And I'm ready.
Get some stuff.
And I'm ready for Cersei's strange green-headed giant man. I want to see his face. Have we seen his face yet?
Not
we haven't.
Properly,
Not properly, just his eyes.
Just his eyes and the skin around it's all blue.
Yeah.